So today the plan is to show you how to make a folded fabric triangle tree. First thing we need to know how to do is how to make a template. So this is based off equilateral triangles. So the first way you can do it is using a compass. So what you're going to do is you're going to take it, you're going to set it to the length of the side, because equilateral triangles, all the sides are the same length. You basically are then going to draw two curves, one from either side, then join where these curves intersect to the corner. This will give you an equilateral triangle. Now obviously I've shown you how to do this method in the video, but let's go over the other methods as well. So you take your ruler and you're going to measure how wide you want your triangle. Now you take that measurement and divide it by 2. You then are going to draw a line at a right angle from the base of your triangle, going up at half the width of your triangle base. Now you take your ruler, you're going to put it in the corner, and you're going to basically go up to that line, and when you find that it intersects with that line from the corner at the same width, you then draw a line, and we're going to do the same on the other side. This is slightly more complicated than actually having the compass. The compass I find is a slightly easier method. Both of these will give you the same size triangle. Once you have your equilateral triangle, I mean, you can see I've just double checked that all of my angles are 60 degrees, all of the sides of my triangle are the same length. You then need to cut it out. Now, having this cardboard cut out, this cardboard template will be beneficial to you. You can see here I've cut them both out, and there's a slight difference in size, but the degrees and everything are exactly the same. I do recommend the compass method. If you don't have a compass, you can literally use a piece of string wrapped around a pencil. That will work just as well. So do this on cardboard, cut it out, you've got your template for the next stage. Once you have your template, and you've picked which one you want to use, it's now time to move on to fabric choice. Now, I have got this beautiful red, I think it's a Japanese style, it's got a beautiful pattern to it, and in contrasting, I have this very plain green fabric. So, now I've got my fabrics, I'm basically going to set about cutting out the fabric that's then going to be folded. Speed this up by folding your fabric. This basically just means that you can work a little bit quicker. As you can see here, I've just folded the fabric, laid my template on top, and I've used a rotary cutter to cut round the triangle template, ensuring to cut all 3 sides of the triangle. The rotary cutter played up a little bit here, so unfortunately I did then have to snip the bits where it hadn't caught. This is also slightly due to the fabric, because obviously with it being multi-layered and having the pattern, it's slightly more harder for it to go through. The great thing about this being an equilateral triangle is obviously you can lay it just next to each other with all the angles being the same. If I cut it, I literally flip the triangle, put it next to it, and I'm getting a lot more triangles for my fabric. There's a lot less waste involved in this particular shape. You will need 9 triangles out of each of the colours of fabric. I actually gave up with the red rotary cutter and moved over to my my Fiskars rotary cutter. I am not sponsored for these. It's just I actually do find this particular rotary cutter a lot better. As you can see, it has no issue with going through the cardboard as well as the fabric, so you do need to be a little bit more careful here when using a rotary cutter. If you find using scissors better, it's just because of the size of fabric here, because it's so slippy, it's a lot easier to use a rotary cutter than scissors. Again, you need 9 of these triangles, so 9 red, 9 green, or whichever 2 contrasting colours you yourself are using. Now put your triangles together, right side to right side, if your fabrics do have them, which obviously my patterned one does. So right side to right side, so you've got your alternating between your, well, again in my case, red and green. It's time to take them over to the sewing machine. Once you have these at the sewing machine, make sure that you sew on the straight into the corner. Make sure that you do have a good corner because you're going to push this out, but also go around the triangle leaving an opening. This opening does not have to be huge, and the corners aren't going to be seen because they're going to be on the back, so it's not quite as important as it would be with others to turn them out perfectly, but do make sure you leave an opening to turn your triangles the right way around. I'm going to speed this up here because obviously it's quite boring watching me sew 9 triangles, but you'll see that it can be quite fiddly. I don't pin them together because the type of material this is, if the pin catches, it's just going to ruin the material, but due to the size, it's actually quite easy to hold them together. It's not actually imperative to use pins. Okay, so away from the sewing machine, and we're now going to basically turn all 9 triangles the correct way around. As you'll see, it can be a little bit fiddly, but like as I said before, you don't actually need to have perfect points, so you're not really needing to trim it down too much. So if you do have a fabric like mine that will fray, you can leave it in the corner. It just makes it a tiny bit more bulky. Have your triangles turned the correct way round if you just sew the opening closed. This does need to be a little bit tidy. I've done it in a different colour thread, so you may actually see it a bit more, but I'm doing this for illustration purposes. Take a little bit more time and get a much tidier result. Once you have all 9 triangles, now we're going to start folding it. You're going to take all 3 corners and you're going to fold so in this case I've taken them and I've folded the green over onto the red, and I've taken my needle through all 3 corners through the fabric so it comes out on the side of the green fabric. From here we're then going to take our fabric and we're going to take the middle of the edge that's now showing us. This is the middle of the edge that isn't yet folded. Putting our needle through, we're going to pull that into the center. We're going to do that with all 3 sides, giving us the effect that we want. Once we have the needle through all 3 sides, we're then going to take our needle. Now this is where you can add an embellishment if you want to cover any stitches. Now as you can see, I've used this little like snowflake, but basically you then want to take the needle back through to the back side and secure it. You can do this with a knot, you can do this by tying it off. As I say, I'm using this little snowflake on the front to cover stitch would be showing. Now you don't have to use an embellishment on every single one. You can use these like almost like baubles on trees. They don't have to be on every one. You could do them on every other one. You could actually make a feature out of the stitches. This is where you can basically use a bit of creativity. Then obviously once the stitch is back through to the back, like I said, really tie it off, because if this piece of thread snaps or if this stitch comes undone, it completely undoes the entirety of the folded section. Again, we're repeating for all 9 triangles, which can take a while. I'd recommend doing it in front of the TV or while you're listening to some music. When you have folded all 9 of your triangles, it's now time to attach them to each other. So what you're going to do is arrange them so you have a triangle. So you've got 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, which gives us our 9. And you're going to secure them at the corners by sewing them together. Again, you can use the embellishments here as I said, like little baubles. Now I started off with sewing them, but I got so tangled with them. At the end I just glued some on to cover where you could see the stitching. And you can also do this in the middle. You can use glue, different glues. Obviously fabric glue is a really good one to use, or super glue. You don't have to struggle with stitching embellishments like this on. If you're using beads, it's great. They don't tangle like these little so-and-sos did.
finished by adding a loop of ribbon at the top so you can hang this creation. I'm sure there's other ways of doing it. I just add a little bit of ribbon so that they can be hung from a Christmas tree or hung up on the wall or possibly even hung up in the window.
When I'd finished, I took a few pictures, and there's also a picture here of the very first 2 trees I did for my niece and nephew. As you can see from the in between the bottom 2 in the middle, I put a piece of ribbon and I actually sewed what looks like a little plant pot and put their names on so they knew whose was whose.
I forgot to say, really, 9 is the minimum amount of triangles. You could make a really big tree with this. Also, your equilateral triangles at the beginning can be... There's kind of a minimum size because of folding, but the maximum size, it really is as big as you want to make them. I actually feel this could be really impactful if you did a really big version of this with more triangles. I think it would make an amazing piece hanging on the wall. You could even use it instead of your real Christmas tree. If you do, please hop on over to my Facebook group and post a picture of your work. I would love to see it.